Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Adulting 101, Robinson Real World. So we put together this segment on today to be able to help you navigate some of the pitfalls that comes along with adulting. Once you get out of school, or if you're a senior getting ready to graduate, our illustrious panel is here today to be able to give you a couple of tips on how they manage some of the challenges in the workplace or either just the real world. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off by allowing our panel to introduce themselves. So I'll start off with Debbie.
Hello, thank you for the welcome. My name is Debbie Aiken. I am the head of people at Vert Digital, which is a mid-sized marketing agency here in Atlanta. So I'm responsible for recruitment and hiring, as well as culture and engagement of our current employees.
Okay, great. And next up we have Jessica.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Mitchell. I go by Jess. I serve as a campus outreach specialist at Google. My job is to inform students of opportunities at Google, as well as usher them into our hiring process with our local recruiters. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I am a GSU alum.
Oh, great, great. Thank you, Jessica. And Mally, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Mally Scott. I'm a Georgia State alumni from the School of Business. I was a finance major. I work for Humrichberg. We're a fee-only wealth advisor in Atlanta. So we just expanded to Florida. So we're growing and growing each year, but I provide fee-only financial advice to suddenly single women. So widowed ladies and divorced ladies. So Thanks for having me here today.
Great, welcome. And last but not least, Andrea. I always mix it up. Is it Andrea? You're on mute.
It's Andrea.
Andrea.
Thank you for inviting me, Sherry. Very happy to be here. My name is Andrea Clacco. I'm with Defense Storm. We are a local company here in Atlanta, headquartered here in Atlanta. We have several other offices throughout the United States. But what we do here at Defense Storm is we provide cybersecurity solutions for banks and credit unions throughout the United States. I'm excited to be here and hope to provide some feedback and commentary.
Okay, great. So as part of being an adulting in the real world, I just want to give a little tidbit to our students on the line. If you could turn on your cameras so our panel here can engage with you, because if they're seeing your name constantly, that's great. So what if just happenstance, they remember your name, you're interviewing at their company, and they say, oh, I remember her, she never turned on her camera. So let's try to engage on today. You'll have an opportunity to put questions in the chat, and we'll try to address those. We know that our time is limited, but let's go ahead and get started. We want to see your shining faces. I know it's a little dim here in Atlanta, but hey, we're going to make the best of it today. So we're going to, I'll just tell you the flow of how everything is going to go today. We're going to pose a couple of questions to the panel and they'll respond, but we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions probably midpoint of the session. So let's get started. Okay, what is the best piece of advice you wish you would have received while you were in school, whether you were a sophomore, junior, or what have you? And then once you got out into the real world, what is the best piece of advice you would have received? Let's start with you, Jessica.
I knew that was coming to me. Wow. So when I was an undergrad, I felt that I had to do all of the things and not stop and enjoy. If I'm being very honest, I don't think I enjoyed enough of college because I was constantly preparing for post-graduation. And there's value in just being a student. Kind of like we say there's value in being a kid, there's value in just being a student. So I would tell my younger self to slow down Don't not do the internships, the campus involvement, the panels and events like these. Don't not do that, but take it in, and don't be so forward thinking that you're not enjoying the present, because the lessons of the present will prepare you for the moments of the future. So yeah.
That's good advice, because you learn as you go along the way. Your process is a teaching moment. I mean, hey, when you have an opportunity, turn up, kick back, or whatever you're going to do, but enjoy being a student, and you have to learn to put things within its perspective. So that's great feedback. Anybody else on the panel want to chime in? What about you, Mally?
Yeah, I'd say find a mentor. Find someone who is seasoned, maybe not exactly in the field that you're going into, because I was a finance major and thought that I wanted to be in hedge fund management, and now I'm a certified financial planner. So it's two very different things. So, you know, as you're going through your internships, I help run our internship program here, and I tell our folks that come through, if you find out at the end of this internship that you don't want to be a financial planner, that's a success. You found out one more thing that, you know, in college, while you're learning that, that's not exactly what I want to do. So find a mentor, find someone who you trust, who you can go to about things, not just professionally, but in school. So someone who, you know, you can meet up for lunch every now and then, you can call when you have questions. And then also just making sure to take advantage of every opportunity that you're given. And even if it doesn't turn out just right, use it as a learning moment.
That's great. Andrea, did you want to add something to it?
Yeah, if I had to tell myself, my younger self, something, it would be don't worry too much. Things will fall into place. I promise you. And they will be positive. One of the things that happened, you know, I was a huge worry bug when I was in college, always worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, or if my life is going to suck, or, you know, but everything turned out to be just fine. So if you're having a bad semester or a bad year, don't let it affect the rest of your life.
I agree, because as long as you're still breathing, you have an opportunity to get it right. You have an opportunity to segue. Brings me the next question. Have you changed career paths? And if so, how did you transition? Because what of your major, just like me, I started out at Georgia State. I'm a Georgia State alum. I started out as a statistics major. I don't even know what they call it now. I think it was decision sciences once I end up coming back to school, but I end up starting a family, worked a little bit out there in corporate America, and decided that I wanted to go into HR. So I end up coming out with a human resources concentration and worked in HR for several years before returning back to higher ed. So can anyone tell me on the panel, career change, career path, how can you manage the transition? Anyone want to take that one? Okay.
I can take that. So I originally went to school. I got my 2-year degree at Palm Beach Community College, went to Florida State after I graduated there for interior design. Was their interior design student there for a semester. Okay. Decided while taking an art history course or history of interior design course at Florida State that I loved art history. So I switched my major to art history. And I ended up graduating with an art history degree from Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. But they're really how I found, and I ended up moving to Central Florida, and how I found HR is it found me. I was just an office manager, and I started doing payroll, started doing HR duties, and I fell in love with it. So talk about a career change from art history to human resources.
Great. There's definitely a path. Mally, Debbie, anyone else want to chime in? Suggestions on how to manage a career transition?
I can chime in on this one.
Okay.
It kind of echoes what Andrea said in her last question, that my mantra is make a plan, but be okay if things don't go according to plan, because things change and that's okay. And being able to adjust is a good skill to learn. But yeah, I actually just had a huge career shift myself professionally. I was actually working in communication, marketing, higher ed for the past almost a decade. and then realized that the parts of my job I enjoyed the most was stuff I was doing in volunteer roles that all related to like people ops. So I went back to school, got a master's degree, and made a big change and kind of took a left turn into the field of HR. And it was a scary thing to make that big of a change and leave one field completely for a new one. And I'm still working through the adjustment period, but it's been really exciting.
Okay, great. So you mentioned quite a bit, and since we're talking about change and transition, and because of the current state of the world, the economy, COVID-19, the pandemic, talk to me a little bit, anyone on the panel, how you have been able to transition in working remotely. How has it changed your working style and how you communicate with your fellow colleagues at work? And how do you stay on task? Mally?
So I guess, like you said, communication is key. So whether, if you're working on a team, it might be a bit different than if you're working by yourself. So I work in a small team, and we, when this pandemic started, we all said, okay, we need to make sure that we can actually work from home all together at the same time. And we left, and none of us ever came back until like June of this past year. So it was a lot of quick pivoting, and like folks have said on this panel, like you just have to be flexible. And sometimes over communication when you're not in person is truly needed. But just I found that asking for feedback, not in just working remotely, but in my job as a whole, saying, hey, am I doing everything I need to be doing? And when you see success in my role, whether I'm home or whether I'm here right now, am I checking your boxes? Is there anything I could be doing differently? And I think basically knowing how to use the technologies that you have is really important too, working from home. But also when you use your video, something is lost when you're not in person, when you're on an email, when you're on a text thread. So I think video and being engaging and being able to communicate that way is really important too.
Great, that's great feedback. So Jessica, go ahead.
I was just gonna give some practical steps that I took. So I only work in one specific corner of my home, and I call it my work rug. And if I go off this work rug, my laptop cannot go with me. And I do that.
Setting boundaries.
Yes, and it is ways to set my boundaries. But I realized, like, I tried to find, like, do I want to sit in the kitchen, the living room, my bed, like, where do I want to get my work done at? And I realized nothing else worked for me because my mind will wander elsewhere. And by a show of hands, anyone works out or like does like HIIT classes, high intensity interval training? Yeah, no, y'all like not. Okay,
Say that question one more time, Jessica.
Like working out, HIIT classes. Any students take any? Okay, it's fine. Whatever, cool. So high intensity interval training. So essentially you work out for like 30-second sprints and you take a 15-second break and you start all over again.
Right.
I approach my work the exact same way. I have an 8-hour schedule. I'm sprinting for maybe an hour and a half. I'm taking a 15-minute break to just get off of my carpet. And I do the exact same thing again. It helps me to keep my focus, to keep on task, because I'm not gonna lie, my TV's right here. I can watch, Real Housewives all day. So I try my hardest to like stay in my hour and 15, and then I can spend my next 15 doing whatever I want to do. So that's how I also allow myself to decompress. But for that hour and 15, it's heads down, all in. So yeah.
I will say that if you have the opportunity to go into an office, while it may not be enjoyable at first, I do think that you would enjoy it if you go into an office setting on a daily basis. Defense Storm is a 100%, you can work 100% from home. I live an exit away from our office. I choose to be here because our CEO is here. We've got 3 other VPs in the office. when you're seen in person, it
Mhm.
makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a
Exactly.
huge difference when you're showing your face in front of all of these VPs and CEOs every day. It makes a huge difference. I'll tell you that. So if you have the opportunity to go in, do so.
So that brings me to my next question. As far as setting boundaries when you are working from home, right? And anybody else want to talk about how do they do set boundaries? And also, Andrea, I know that you're in HR. How do you even bring up the subject of a hybrid work environment? Because you may have some students going out into the workforce may not want to come in every single day because they know the boundaries and some of the struggles of working from home. So how do you even bring that up in an interview? Is that okay? Or either you just get what you get? Well, they've given me some days from working from home, but how do you bring that up in the conversation when you're interviewing?
So I always, when I'm interviewing, I always tell everyone that, we are a 100% work remote. If you want to come into one of our offices and you live nearby, you're more than welcome to do so. We've got an office in Seattle and Wilmington, North Carolina, and then of course here in Alpharetta. But again, if you're in Texas and we don't have an office in Texas,
Right.
then you can't come into an office. So you are 100% remote. Although we do have, I want to say 4 people now in Austin, and we just had a all ears call on Monday, and they were all together. It was so nice to see them all together. I think they got together at a restaurant for the day. So anyways, yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be truthful and honest with who you're interviewing with and ask, what is your policy?
Okay, great. That's great feedback. Anyone else?
Yeah, I can add just a little bit. I also think it's really important to ask that in the interview, what their policy is, and if you are really looking for that in-person collaboration, then tell them that, because a lot of times that's good information for them to have.
Mm-hmm.
If the hiring manager sees that a lot of candidates are saying that they really want to be in the office, then that's they can make that an organizational priority to have more people in the office. And as far as setting boundaries, excuse me, I can say one thing that has helped me is one of the benefits from working from home is that you can kind of create your own adventure. So you can take your dog for a walk in the middle of the day, or like Jessica was saying, you have that focus time and then you take a break and go to, pick up a Starbucks, or go for a walk and call a friend, things that you might not have done during the workday when you were in the office, similar to how students probably are adjusting to, or did adjust when everybody was taking classes from home. So just knowing that you can kind of create your own adventure and make time for those little breaks throughout the day to give yourself some opportunity to take a breath.
Right. I think that's very important. So my next question is for our alums that's on the panel. When you were interviewing and you were out beating the pavement or the virtual pavement or what have you, looking for a job, how was your GSU degree perceived by your interviewer?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think Georgia State has a wonderful finance program, and our HR manager actually got her master's at Georgia State as well. So I think it was looked upon very well. I mean, right there with Virginia Tech and SMU and UGA or whatever. So I think we have a great business school and a great finance program. So as far as that goes, I think it was really beneficial for me.
Okay. What about you, Jessica?
Oh man. At the time when I was in school, President Mark Becker was in seat, and I remember going to interviews, internships too, and full-time roles, and people saying, "Oh yeah, like Georgia State," and I guess for me, I knew how special my school was because I am still like that all blue, all in, bleed blue, go Panthers type of gal. As a student athlete as well. So like I had Panther pride. And so for other people to also respect and get excited about my degree, even outside of like the metropolitan Atlanta area, that gave me a spark of energy that I was like, oh, I can do this. And not to mention, I'm excited to see what, President Brian Blake brings to the equity of our degree. Like more and
Right.
more, our degree is getting publicly, nationally recognized. And
Mhm,
that
mhm.
is all the more, I think, confidence that you can exude when you walk into an interview. And also know that, people recognize your degree, but also they know of the quality and caliber of your degree. I think it just gives you this air of confidence that, I mean, it can be bought, I guess you pay your tuition, but lean
Right,
into that. But
right.
yes, I was beyond excited when I was interviewing. Again, not only for Metro Atlanta area, but also nationally. I was very surprised, but also grateful that people knew Georgia State.
Great. Now that kind of segued me into networking. So I know Mally mentioned that the HR person there had a GSU degree, and you're saying that your degree being recognizable with the different people that you encounter. So since we're in the pandemic and we're social distancing, virtual environment, networking, any tips on networking right now in the present state? Anyone want to take that one? Debbie.
I was just going to unmute. I have two specific examples about how I've used LinkedIn to network and help me in my professional growth. One just came from keeping my LinkedIn updated and putting specific things in there about what I was doing in my job. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking for someone that has experience with this system that you put in your job description. And I have the opportunity for some freelance work. Are you interested in it? And I was like, sure, yeah, like I can do this easily. Part-time work, couple $1,000s here and there as they needed it. And they ended up offering me a job a year later.
Wow.
So that was just from having the name of this system that I used in my job description was a really great opportunity. And then secondly, after I made my shift, my career shift, I was very public about that and put it all over my LinkedIn that I was making this big shift and I was excited and scared about it. And somebody reached out to me through LinkedIn and said, I'm doing the same thing. I'm shifting from like nonprofit work into HR and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm scared. And so we met and we had a 30-minute Zoom call and just talked through it and shared our excitement and our fears about it. And now we message each other all the time and have that connection to one another to kind of support ourselves through this new phase of professional development for us.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Andrea, did you want to chime in?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So Debbie talked a lot about LinkedIn. LinkedIn, guys, is very important. It's a great social media platform in which to get yourself out there. The staff that we have at the CAC, the Robinson College of Business Career Advancement Center, drop in, go see your counselor, speak to them about ways to brush up on your LinkedIn, because that is your social media presence. I know oftentimes we spend a lot of time on IG, we're tweeting, but since you are getting ready to get out into the workforce, or either we may have some entrepreneurs here, you still want to be able to have a professional social media presence on LinkedIn. It's a great tool. That's how I landed here at Georgia State, through LinkedIn. I reached out to someone and they said, sure, we have an opening, and that's how I got to Georgia State. So it's very important. It's very important. So I want to talk about negotiation. There are several books out there on the art of negotiation. So I just want to hear from the panel. You go into your interview, they offer you the job, and oftentimes they give you several days or what have you to think about whether or not you're going to come on to the company. You may verbally accept or what have you. And then you start talking to your friends, your colleagues, and say, well, hey, I hear that this position should actually pay what have you. So how do you go back? Kind of give us some tips on the art of negotiation with your salary and you're first out of college. Andrea, can you take that one? You're our HR expert here.
Yes. So I would say, don't expect to earn a wage of someone who's been in the industry of wherever you're going. If let's say, don't expect to come out of college, with 25 years of experience pay, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not how the real world works, unfortunately. It's all based on experience. So I will tell you that. And I also, going back to the LinkedIn piece as well, when I'm interviewing, one of the first things I do before I hop on the interview is review their LinkedIn page. So if you don't have a LinkedIn page, you kind of got to knock down, from me already. So just bear that in mind. LinkedIn is huge, huge, huge in today's market. But as far as negotiation, I would say, don't push your luck. Yes, it's important. You have to stick up for yourself, right? But don't go back 3 and 4 times, because you're more than likely going to get an email saying, sorry, but sorry, just don't push your luck.
That's true. That's good advice. And working in corporate America as well, and I worked in HR for several years, recruiters and colleagues, they do talk. And they will deem you as being hard to deal with. So thank you for that advice. Mally.
To piggyback off that, you might not get the salary that you want. Like Andrea said, you're not going to be paid what, someone with a lot of tenure has been paid. But if you show up every day and you give it your best, truly, and you ask for feedback and you say, okay, this is my desired salary. This is where I want to be. I want to make senior next year. What are the boxes I need to check? What do I need to do? Be upfront. Ask people for their advice. Like, ask your manager, what do I need to do to level up? Because if you don't ask, you don't know. And if you don't know, you're not going to do it. And so I think that there's a lot to be said. I've been with this company for 4 years, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I feel tenured at this point because people come and go for a little bit of money here and there. There's really something to be said about loyalty to a company that you find is pouring into you as much as you are pouring into them. And you can't pay me with culture, but you can pay me because I feel like I'm in a family here, right? So I think fair compensation, don't let that go. Don't let fair compensation go. Do your research, figure out what you're worth and how much you should be paid. But also when you get real world on the job, you're busting your ass, right? You're going to make more money. That's how it's going to go. So I think you can prove yourself and do it that way.
And that's a great lead into my next question. Any tips on continuing education or personal development that will help you prepare you and that will catapult you into the next role? Andrea.
So I can take a little bit of that. So I am actually enrolled, I'm going for my master's in HR law.
Okay.
So I'm enrolled at Florida State University right now in their Juris Master's program. I will say, so like when you work for smaller companies such as DefenseStorm, they don't necessarily have a tuition reimbursement program that maybe like the FISs and the Fiservs of the world would have. So I would just give the advice that if that's something that you want to pursue, talk with your manager prior to enrolling and see if it's something that they would reimburse you for.
Right.
But the larger companies like the Googles, I'm sure, Jessica, you guys have a tuition reimbursement program, as long as it applies to the work that you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's that caveat, right? You gotta. So anyways, yeah, I would, again, communication is key, right? If you work in a smaller company, you just have to communicate with your manager and, the org level VP.
That's good advice. I've worked in corporate America several years before coming to Georgia State, and each company I did work for, the bank, I worked for the airlines, all of them did have tuition reimbursement, and I definitely took advantage of it. Some of them will award you scholarships beforehand. Some you have to pay for the class and they reimburse you. And even some companies I worked for, they reimbursed you based on your grade. So if you got an A, you got 100% of the money back, a B, 75%, a C, 50%, D, what were you doing? Coming to class eating sandwiches? So it's like they didn't give you any money, but make sure that even when you are on these jobs and you're getting ready to get hired, and oftentimes they have newsletters that go out every day. They have a portal where you can sign on. Take advantage of knowing the company that you work for, because oftentimes there are so many different things that the company offer that you're not aware of. You're just coming there every single day, getting a check, and then going home. Take advantage of volunteer opportunities, lunch and learns, coffee and conversations with people that are in the position that you actually want to hold. So that's key. So Andrea, you mentioned about going to grad school. Anyone else here on the panel is going to grad school, thinking about going to grad school? And what was your experience on that? Thanks, Debbie.
Okay, I saw Mally unmuted at the same time, so she can go next. Yes, I just finished my master's degree. I will say I don't think everybody needs a master's degree. Don't feel like it's required for every job. A lot of fields, there's other certifications that are more important. But for me, I thought it would help because I was making a big career change. So I wanted to have, I didn't have any real world HR experience. So I wanted to have some kind of background in that field that would help me. It was a hybrid program, so I did it while I was working full time and basically just went to class a couple times a month. Mm-hmm. So for me, it worked because it made sense for the transition I was trying to make. So yeah, that's the short answer.
Okay. What about you, Mally?
Ditto to Debbie. I don't have my master's degree. When I started working, I asked, what do I need to get to further myself in my career? It is a master's, and really, do I need an MBA? And they said, no, the CFP designation is it. And I would say, if you're going to get a designation or anything, for me, it was easy to go right from college into studying for something else. I didn't give myself a break, which, just like I said, enjoy it. So like, enjoy it while you have it. Enjoy your student time, because you're going to be reading and studying and learning forever. But if you think you might be sitting for a test, depending on your situation, it might be helpful to just go ahead and get that done right out of school, so you still have these really good study habits. But certainly ask, is what I'm about to do going to help me further my career or get me to the place that I want to be?
That's key, because graduate school is not inexpensive. And say if you spend 30 or 40,000 on a graduate degree and you don't get the return over the next several years, we know that it takes a minute in order to get that return back. But if you don't see a prospect in getting the return, you need to probably really rethink your decision. So we have a question in the chat for anyone on the panel. With respect to negotiation, can you ask for a higher salary if you have that work experience in a different industry? Anyone want to take that one?
I'll take that. So
okay.
I did do a career pivot so prior to joining Google, I was an economist for the city of Atlanta. And when I made that pivot, I had plus internships, full-time role, maybe like 3 years of experience, nothing crazy, maybe 3 years of experience. When I was interviewing with Google, I knew that my salary reflected a very entry level role. Given that I had that 3 or so years of experiences, and my experiences were transferable, in my opinion, and in the opinion of my recruiter in interview, which is why they hit me up, I did negotiate. And I knew that it was actually a high percentage that I would not, because I was making a career pivot, but I leaned into my transferable skills. If you find that your 8 years of sales, in somewhere within that realm, it transfers to data analytics, make that case. I think that you don't take it. I acknowledge what I'm about to say is very sensitive, so I apologize, but you're going to miss every shot that you don't take. So shoot your shot. I think and I believe with my whole heart that if you go to the recruiter, to your recruiter, and you say, here's my range, can we work within that range? That's okay. You don't have to give them a bare bones number to negotiate. Give them a range and see if they can fit that range. But that would be my advice to you. Don't dismiss 8 years. See what transfers, see how you can make that business case and use that business case to negotiate a range and see if that company can match that range.
That's good advice. That's good advice. Anyone else want to add anything? Let's see if we have something else in the chat. Okay, she's just saying thank you so much. Okay, so right now we're in a culture that we are really highlighting diversity, equity, and inclusion. And myself as a woman, as an African-American woman, I embrace that. I don't shy away from that. Give us advice, panelists, on how you can bring your authentic self to the workplace, but still working within the construct and the norms of your business, of your workplace. So how can you still remain your authentic self, but still working within the construct of corporate America, or either the workplace, because you may actually, work in the school system? Mally, I see you smiling.
You might have stumped me on this one. So I'm not going to say I'm exactly the same person on the job as I am at home. I mean, if I'm sitting here with an 80-year-old widow talking about her finances, I'm certainly not speaking exactly like I do when I'm at home. But I think that it's important to find a workplace that allows you to be who you are and who encourages you to be who you are. I think that a lot of companies are starting to embrace diversity and equity and inclusion, and it's important. And like, if you go to Hamrickberg's website and you look at all the people who work here, if you looked 5 years ago, it was a lot more male and a lot more white than it is now. And we're working really hard to make that difference so that the people who we work with resemble our clients and our family and our friends, right? And we are working on celebrating each other's cultures. Not every firm is like that. Not every firm is perfect. Not every company you work with is going to be like that. Do your research, reach out to people on LinkedIn who work for these companies and ask if you can chat and say, hey, are you comfortable here? Do you enjoy being here? Like, what's your personal experience? And if you start working somewhere where they don't accept you for you, I mean, that's a huge red flag. That's a them problem. It's not a you problem. So be
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's great advice, because I always tell people when I'm career coaching and just speaking with people as a whole, always remember you're interviewing that company as well. And you're trying to see, will I be a great fit? How can I add value? And it could be a great company, but just not a great company for you. And I even look at that in relationships as well. Hey, you're a great guy, you're a great girl, but you're just not the person for me or what I need to embrace in my life right now. So Debbie, Andrea, Jessica, you guys want to add anything? Yes, Debbie.
Yeah, I can just add a couple little things. I would say ask about it in interviews. What is, if you're talking to the interview team, you can say, what is your organization's DEI plan? What efforts is your organization making toward, diversity, equity, and inclusion? And then look at some big companies that have theirs published on their website. And then you kind of start to get a feel for what is meaningful action and what is just words that they're saying. So they can say that they're doing something, in the field of DEI. The other thing I was going to say, oh yes, ask about employee resource groups.
Yes.
These are pretty standard for any, decent sized organization. It's basically just ways for employees to connect with one another about similar interests and identities. So that if they have those and they're well supported, then that is a good sign.
That's important. I was a member of a Black employment resource group at my last employer. And we had several resource groups, women solely, Black, African-American, Asian, Pacific. And so in each month or during a particular time, we would have speakers to come in that was represented of those groups. And so it made for more of an inclusive work environment. So yes, that's very important. So since we're talking real world and being real world ready, I just want to get feedback from you guys. I remember when I ended up getting, I would say, my first big check, right? And I was like, who in the world is FICA? So it was like, why is all of this money coming out or whatever? Give us some tips on managing that first big check that you receive. Or have you even received the first big check? Debbie, I see you laughing.
Yeah, I was going to say, still waiting on that. No, I'm kidding. I would say there are a million resources for budgeting, and just start at the very basics, like how much should I be putting in my 401k? If your employer provides a match, I would definitely take advantage of that free money that they're giving you. But like what percentage of your income should be going to food, and what percentage should be clothing, and what percentage should be, your rent and utilities and whatever. So there's lots of apps and programs online. I would say start there and make a budget and try to stick to it for the most part.
I've heard Mint is great for that, the app Mint.
Mint.
I personally don't use it, but I've heard great things about it.
MINT, Mint. Mally, what about you? You want to give us a couple of tips?
Jessica just unmuted.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Mel. I would suggest too, not waiting until your first big check to start budgeting. I remember being a freshman in, I think it's called Patton Hall now, it used to be Freshman Hall, but budgeting my refund check and trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? Where can I make ends meet? Where do I need to probably be more strict with myself? But start building that muscle now. Maybe I need to go work out. I keep referring to muscles today, but keep building that muscle now. Start now so that you have that muscle memory when it does come time for 30,000, 50,000, whatever amount of money when it comes to a salary. Because I'm not gonna lie, when I first got my big girl check, I was like, so what do I do now? I literally, all I knew was just tithe. And I was like, so what then after tithe? So it's important to just build that muscle and start thinking like, what type of lifestyle are you going to live, you want to live, and what's feasible? Like things like that I recommend doing now. Don't wait until then, because you might ball out of control and just, cash out. And then you
can't pay your rent.
Can't pay your rent. So do that now, y'all. Don't wait. Okay,
Mally.
I'm just going to mention, so two people have already spoken, but I'm a financial planner, so I have to put my 2 cents in here. Yes. This is just real world advice. When I think about my buckets that I have, right? I think about the fact that I might have high interest credit card debt. I think about the fact that I probably have these student loans. I really want an emergency fund. I need some cash in the bank if something happens. And I need to pay myself. I need to put money away for retirement, right? So it seems kind of overwhelming, but to begin with, it depends on who can you depend on. So if you are the only person who is contributing to your own finances, I think a security blanket and a savings account with a couple of months of extra fixed expenses, my rent, my car payment, my insurance, right? That's really important to have, right? And then let's start working on our higher interest credit card debt. Are we paying 22, 30% interest, right? And then we need to pay ourselves too. So there's a lot of different things to think about, but I would start, follow Wall Street Journal, follow Market Watch, start looking at the markets. You might not be a finance major, but kind of figure out, what's going on in the world? What are interest rates? Because it affects everything in your life. So I think having even a shallow base of knowledge on how the economy kind of works. And I think Robinson College of Business gives us a really good foundation of that. And then reach out to resources. So if you see a financial planner on LinkedIn, call them. Say, hey, like you might not be able to provide me professional advice, but can you chat with me about what you think is important? And a lot of people will do that. And then you're networking and it's genuine and you're getting something out of it too. So
I think that's great feedback. When I worked in corporate America, along with the services that they offered the company, they offered us 90 days of a free financial planner. So if you work with a company that are offering these services, take advantage of it. Please take full advantage of the full match of your 401k, because you will find out that it adds up very quickly and you really don't miss it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mally, it is pre-tax, right? What they are taking out.
it depends.
Okay.
So some employers now will let you put away money to your traditional 401k, and that's pre-tax. And then some places now are letting you put away money in a Roth 401k.
Yes.
So you're already paying taxes on that going in. But most of the time, your match will be respectively. If it's Roth, it goes in the Roth bucket. Your match will. Talk to HR. HR will have all the details for your plans. And also the HR people here will tell you too, look into if you have ESPPs, stock options, restricted stock units, things like that, you could be missing out. I was a Starbucks barista during college when I was at Georgia State, and I just opened a Fidelity account. And in my Fidelity account was an empty account called the Starbucks Savings Plan. I could have been buying employee stock at a discount when I was working there, and I probably wouldn't have felt it in my paycheck too much, a little bit here or there. So make sure you're asking the questions, getting everything you need to know about your benefits so that you aren't missing out.
Great, great. Andrea, did you want to add anything?
I will say that, there are some companies out there that don't offer a match. But again, like Sherry said, if they offer a match, take advantage of it. It's free money. It's free money. You just have to, put your own money into it, and it will be yours one day eventually. You don't see it in your paycheck that day when you're thinking about it, but you will, when you retire.
Great. So we're going to take a minute to go into the chat. I saw a question earlier. How do you suggest a student with no experience market themselves in order to gain an internship that may lead to a job? She mentions that she's done well in school, but a little worried about not having any actual experience.
So I would say I've been cruising a bunch of intern resumes the past few weeks, and I will say that if you have any big projects that you've worked on, include those projects at school. I mean, if you have any outside like fraternities or sorority projects that you've worked on, add those add to your resume big time, I'd say. Yeah, I think that, just adding as much as you can, volunteer work also helps.
Anyone else want to add anything to that? Okay, let's see here. We have another. Go ahead, Debbie. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, apply for jobs that you're really interested in, or internships that you're really interested in, and then tell them why you're interested in it. So it's internships. So most of the time, employers don't expect you to have a lot of experience. They expect you to have, the academic interests and, maybe some classes and projects that are relevant. But really, if you can just say, I'm really interested in learning more about this. I would love to explore this as a potential career option, and then kind of, give some specifics about the job. That can go a long way in the internship hiring process.
That's great advice. I would also say, for instance, if you are an accountant, join your associations. If you are an engineer major, join and you're African American or what have you, you can join the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE. If you're Hispanic, it's called SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Reach out to organizations that are within the industry that you are pursuing. Oftentimes they have job posted. jobs posted. When I was part of SHRM, I would go out and I would volunteer with the mayor's office and I would work with high school students. So get yourself out there, be very creative. I believe the best way to hone in to kind of hone in on your giftings and different things and your callings is to give your gift away for free and to work with someone that's in the same industry and to help someone that may not be as well versed in what you are knowledgeable about. So if you're a CIS major, start tutoring kids, teaching people how to code or whatever. You just never know. Just put yourself out there. I think that's very key. So I want to segue back to workplace etiquette. So for anyone on the panel, say if you're an introvert, you're used to always working with your head down, but you work in an environment that's really more team oriented. How do you bring yourself out of a shell? Because now it's circling around that you're not really a team player, or you're a little stoic or a little distant, but it's just part of who you are. You're just an introvert. You're just a head down person. How can you bring yourself out of that to be more engaging and work within a team environment? Mally, I see you thinking.
You got me all wrong here. I'm an extrovert at heart. I think though, when you're in your interview, ask, is this an autonomous role or am I working on a team? And if you don't prefer working on a team, don't. You're going to be collaborating with other people no matter where you are, what you're doing, I think. So I think it is. I have plenty of colleagues who would consider themselves introverted, but are good at communicating, and you can be a part of a team, but I could be the most extroverted person ever and be on the wrong team and not be fitting in. So pick the job you want, and if you know you don't like working in a team, there are jobs out there that, don't require that.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. Don't be forced into something that you don't want to do. Like if being, if talking to someone for 8 hours a day is not your jam, find something else. Like, don't force yourself to hate something. Like, that's why I went to college for art history, because I was bad at math. I was bad at science, but I loved art history. And I told myself I wasn't going to go through college for 4 years hating life. So that's why I chose the major I did. Same thing applies to your work.
Good advice. Jessica.
Yes, so this to me is the I of DE&I, right? It's the inclusion component. And I think that if you want people to meet you where you're at, you need to communicate. For example, for me, I take an hour of walking meetings a day that's communicated with my teammates. So they know what to expect, that I'm going to be walking while we're on our meetings. It's my thing, it's my jam. If my other colleague, let's say, is more quiet in team meetings, or they prefer to use the chat versus coming off mute, or they prefer to not go to happy hour, for whatever the case is, it is up to the team to make sure they're included. So don't feel that you have to carry that burden. As long as it's a communicated thing, it's no longer your burden to have. It's actually for your team to accommodate, if they truly are serious about inclusion of the DE&I. So don't feel bad. Own it, communicate it, hold them accountable to it as well. But it should actually be your team's quote unquote burden to carry. It shouldn't be yours, as long as communicated effectively.
That's great. So we're coming to the very end of our session. This has been great. You guys have given some great feedback. So I want to hear from everyone on the panel. What's coming up next? Do you have any open opportunities for the students that is here on the call? And if so, if you can drop LinkedIn information, your website information in the chat. So I'm going to do like a round robin and just give us last bits of advice or any open opportunities you have for students that are on the call. And I'll start with you, Debbie.
Thank you. Yes, I will drop this in the chat right now. VERT has several internship openings right now. I think we have 5 right now, and we're getting ready to add another one. It's for our summer internship program. So they'll all run like mid-May to mid-August, and they're all marketing related. but in different areas. So some are more focused on writing, some are more focused on media, some are more focused on strategy. So, and then I'll also put my email in there as well. You're welcome to reach out with any questions about the application process.
Okay, great. Thank you, Debbie. Jessica?
Sure, so I just put in the chat here our career site. I am a case in point that I am not a coder. I don't know how to code, but I'm here at Google. We have technical roles as well as non-technical roles. We're a corporation. We have an HR department. We have a finance department. We have anything under the sun. We're a global business. So I recommend if you're interested in opportunities at Google, check out the website, google.com/students. For those of you who are industry candidates, same applies for you. And in regards to our growth here at Google, we're expanding in Atlanta. So if you are passionate about staying local, there's opportunities here for you as well. So check out the locations, filter by Atlanta. We have a plethora of roles and opportunities. We'll be more than happy to have you. So thank you for the time. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Mally?
So we, for those of you who are still in school, we have a summer internship program. We're targeting rising seniors. It doesn't have to be a finance degree, but these are what we call client service roles. So someone who wants to be a financial planner, thinks they might want to be a financial planner and go that CFP route. We're already full for this summer, but you can go, I put a link here to our website. You can go where it's kind of an evergreen thing. We review intern resumes as they come in. So if it's something that interests you, please apply. Also, we're always hiring for client service operation roles. We're always hiring for administrative roles and then financial planners as well, which would be an associate role that we have. And I would just say that in your internship, just my biggest advice for folks is just like get the easy things right and be a sponge. Like I don't expect you to know much about financial planning. I just want you to come here and immerse yourself and make it what you can and make connections and meet people and make the most of it. So thank you so much for having me today. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mally. And Andrea?
Yeah, so thank you, Sherry, for inviting me. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I will say that Defense Storm, our internships for the summer are already either in the process of being filled or have been filled. We start our process very early because we want the best of the best, right? As any company would. But I did put the link to our careers page in the message, the chat feature on the Zoom, but feel free to check back anytime. We do have all the time cybersecurity analyst positions. That's it's an associate role. It's an entry level position that you could start off in and then move your way up into a cybersecurity engineer role. That's not software engineering. It's a different type of role. Anyways, feel free to check us out. Would love to hear from some of you. We do have a general application. If nothing hits you there, just go ahead and apply to the general application. And that's just something that we keep on hand, to pull resumes later on if we need some.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a great session for Adulting 101, Robinson Real World Ready. Well, say that 3 times fast. Just want to thank everyone for joining in on the call, even the students. I mean, even though we do this for you, this cannot be a success without our students participating, asking questions, engaging, staying on the line, showing your faces on camera. So I just want to thank our panelists as well, Debbie and Jessica and Mally and Andrea, lending us your support as we support our students and giving us valuable information and tips and feedback. So I want everyone to have a beautiful weekend and stay safe. And we're going to leave open for a few minutes in case the students want to continue to get information for about your company. So thank you again, everyone, and enjoy your day. We're going to hang out for